Like always, appreciate everybody coming out and covering Penn State football. I hope everybody has a great holiday season, which is coming up. Able to spend some time with your friends and family. You know, kind of reviewing the Rutgers game. Turnover battle, we were able to win that. The penalty battle, we had the same number of penalties, but had more yards, so we didn't win that one. Drive start battle, we did not win, but the sack battle we did, the explosive play battle we did. So some positives there, obviously some areas we got to get cleaned up. Players of the game, on offense, winner Katron Allen, who's also the Big Ten co-freshman of the week. Defensively, Curtis Jacobs and Abdul Carter. And then on special teams, Nicholas Singleton. So awesome for those guys, making an impact in the program and in the game. Some positives, I thought we played really good complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams, which was good to see. One of the things that I'm most proud of is we're getting better each week. The best teams in college football get better individually and collectively throughout the season. We're doing that. Some pretty cool stats. 16 different players with sacks this season. I've never seen that stat before in my career. 26 different players with a tackle for a loss this season, which is also a stat that I've never really seen. The kickoff return for a touchdown was just an awesome thing to see. We've worked really hard and invested a ton of time in that. So for the players and for Coach Stacy and Coach Raisbeck to have some success there, that was great to see. 3 non-offensive touchdowns, first time since 1998. And then we were able to get 65 players in the game. Every defensive player that was on the bus to Rutgers played in the game. So that was really cool. Areas for growth, starting fast, that's coaches and players. Third down on offense, that's an area that would have a huge impact on our team as a whole. We got to get better there. And then ball security, ball security, ball security. You can't coach it enough. You can't talk about it enough. And really that was an example of not the traditional things you talk about with ball security with the ball not being secured tight. That was not the case. The ball was secured tight, but part of ball security is also pad level. And you can't allow a defender to put his helmet right on the ball. You got to get your pads down. So we'll continue to work on that. This week with Michigan State and Coach Tucker, who I've known for a long time and got a lot of respect for. Obviously, going to be a challenge coming into our place, playing for maybe the most beautiful trophy game in all of college football. If you guys haven't seen it, or anybody that's listening to this hasn't seen it, look it up. The Land Grant Trophy is just a sight to be seen. It is just beauty, beautiful. Offensive coordinator Jay Johnson, his 3rd season as the offensive coordinator at Michigan State. Guys, that we're pretty, impressed with is Jalen Berger, the running back we recruited out of New Jersey. Keon Coleman, wide receiver. Jalen Reed, wide receiver. Tight end Daniel Barker. Their center, Nick Samak. And then the quarterback, Peyton Thorne, who seems like he's been playing there forever as well. Also, interesting fact, I don't know if you guys know this, Jaden Reed, Peyton Thorne, and Bryce Effner are all high school teammates. Defensively, Scotty Hazelton, 3rd year there. One of the things that was interesting kind of came up in our breakdown. This is the first defensive coordinator that we played this year that was at in that same role the previous year, which is somewhat of a disturbing stat in our profession. But we have some familiarity with him. Guys in that defense that we have a ton of respect for. Linebacker number 27, Cal Halliday, who's a local kid. Defensive tackle number 64, Jacob Slade. Free safety number 3, Xavier Henderson. And then defensive end / linebacker number 4, Jacoby Windman, transfer from UNLV. Now special teams, Coach Els. Again, another guy, been there for 3 years. They're 3 coordinators. Their punter seems like week after week. This league, if you look at all the statistics, this league plays great defense. It's amazing. You may be 6th in the conference and like 12th in the country in defense, and then it's the same thing with punters. We seem to have great defenses in our league, and then also great punters. Last week I thought the punter was excellent, and this guy is leading the nation in punt average. Number 99, Bryce Barringer, a local kid out of Michigan, local to them. And then their punt returner, Jaden Reed, obviously has been a playmaker. He's got 2 career punt returns for touchdowns at Michigan State. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. We're excited about the opportunity. And obviously today's practice and this week's preparation will be really important. So open up the questions.
Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle, and then we'll go to Mark Wogenrich. Rich?
Hey, Rich, I think I know what's coming.
You want to answer before I ask?
No, I'll let you ask first because I could be wrong.
Okay. Can you update the status of Parker Washington, Olu Fashanu, and Joey Porter Jr.?
Yeah, so that's part of what I thought you were going to ask, not all of it. But yeah, Parker Washington, like I typically do, Parker will be done for the season. I did have that conversation with him and his mom. So I wanted to make sure I covered that, with them first to make sure everybody was comfortable with it. Olu Fashanu, we expect back. When that is, we'll see. Hopefully this weekend, we'll see how that plays out. And same thing with Joey Porter.
Mark Wogenrich, all Penn State, and then Frank Bonanni.
James, just following up on Parker Washington, do you expect him back then for next season? Is that something you've had a discussion with him about that now?
Yeah, as you know, Mark, I'd really like to talk about, this year. We're having conversations, ongoing conversations with the players. Hunter Norzad wanted to make an announcement of what his intentions were. That's up to him. But we have conversations that are going on, and I'm happy to talk about this week. And then obviously we always get together, or typically get together after the season is over, and we'll have an opportunity to be able to address those things in more detail. And to be honest with you, I'm not even avoiding the question, Mark. Not all of those conversations and decisions have been made yet.
Frank Bonanni, York Daily Record, then Mike Gross.
Hey James, happy Thanksgiving week.
You as well, Frank.
Sean Clifford.
Turkey or ham?
I knew that was coming. Turkey, always.
I agree.
Sorry. So
sweet potatoes or yams?
Sweet potatoes and sweet potato pie is by far the best.
That was going to be my next question. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie? It's not even close.
My grandmother, my wife, makes great sweet potato pie. We'll have to have you try it.
I was going to say, are they local?
Yeah, York, PA.
I would be very appreciative and thankful if I could try your family's sweet potato pie.
We'll surprise you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Frank, back to business.
All right, Sean Clifford, you worked a lot of quarterbacks over your time. Maybe one unique thing about Sean that will stick with you, and what do you appreciate the most about him?
Yeah, probably his perseverance. Through good, through bad, through praise, through criticism. And probably the other thing that probably jumps out to me is he has maximized this Penn State experience in a way that I hope more of our guys do. We do a guest coach program where we bring professors and donors to games so they can kind of get an opportunity to peek behind the curtain. And I always tell our guys to introduce themselves, and Sean's over at the table last week exchanging phone numbers with those people. So he's preparing for life after football whenever that happens. Next week he'll get another degree from Penn State. He's done a great job from that perspective and has just handled it all, I think, with class. And I think he has learned and grown and evolved kind of during his time here. But I think probably the biggest word for me is with him is perseverance. That's probably the word I would describe, probably describes him best, throughout his Penn State experience. And I mean that from a positive perspective. Some people may interpret that differently, but I think that's one of the most important traits that we can all have.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers, and then Donnie Collins.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. We all know that Frank is the foremost foodie among us, but it sounds like you know that too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It just when he hit me with the happy holidays and those types of things, I was curious to ask. What about you? I'm only going to go one. I'm not going to go any further than this, but mashed potatoes or macaroni and cheese?
Oh my God. Mashed potatoes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But specifically for Thanksgiving. Maybe not all year round. But
Okay.
Okay. Alan Zamitis tweeted the other day that he's never seen anything like the energy in your building right now. Is this group a little unusual in that respect? And is that in any way an explanation for how the way you guys have been able to bring it every single week when we saw so many teams in college football last week maybe come up a little short in that area?
Yeah, I didn't know that and I didn't see that. I'd like to talk to AZ about that, because I'm curious, is he basing that off just his time now back as a professional? Is he also including his time as a student athlete? So I'll be interested in asking him that. But I do think we got good energy. I do think we got good mojo about us right now. It's late in the season. It's a long season, and there's times where late in the season, can be challenging and a grind on everybody, and it just doesn't feel like that. Even with bumps and bruises like we got, and we have a bunch of them, the energy's really good. Energy's really good. Guys are having fun in the locker room. Guys are having fun out at practice every single day in the meetings room. And I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's all puppies and rainbows and that kind of stuff. There's tough coaching going on. There's accountability going on. But I think overall, we're in a good place. I think our leadership has been as good as it's been in a while. We meet on Sundays, every Sunday, which has been really good. We meet with the captains every Sunday, even if it's just for 5 minutes. I want to hear what their thoughts are going into the week. I want them to hear mine, kind of what the message is going to be all week long. And Terry Smith comes to those meetings all the time as the assistant head coach. And Terry, he made the comment. I go around the room, see if anybody else got anything. Terry made the comment. He goes, as a former captain at Penn State and now being here 9 years, I just want to give you guys the credit that you deserve. You've done a phenomenal job of leading this team vocally through their actions, both on and off the field. They've been really good. So I think they've kind of led the charge. I think it's easy sometimes when the leader of an organization or your position coach or whatever holds a guy accountable or makes a decision, and maybe some people in the locker room don't agree with it. But when you have alignment with the captains and they're reinforcing the message and also calling those things out, which happen, I just think we're in a good place. Positivity spreads, and so can negativity, and you better be aware and working working towards the positivity as much as you can, and having an awareness of any negativity that may be going on. And as we've talked about before, the 125 guys on the team and a decent sized staff, you're going to have some of that.
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times Tribune, then Corey Geiger.
Happy Thanksgiving, James.
You too, Donnie. Okay, Donnie, here we go. String beans or collard greens?
I like both, but I'd probably go collard greens.
Wow, I did not expect that.
Upset.
Nice.
With bacon.
Say that again?
With bacon.
Wow.
Bacon in there. It's the only thing I eat bacon
Yeah, I prefer the fat back, but similar, yeah. This is
a little
interesting.
disappointed to hear you guys kind of diss pumpkin pie earlier.
I'm really down on pumpkin pie.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I'm really down on it. So let's not get into this because obviously it's a hot topic between the two of us.
Yeah, it is. But we'll address it another time. I wanted to ask you about one of the seniors who doesn't get a lot of attention, Chris Stoll. How important has his consistency been for you guys in a position where that's really the only requirement? And is there a reason he's been one of the game captains every week other than just availability?
So externally, maybe he doesn't get talked about a lot. Internally, in our building, we talk about him all the time. He addresses the team a lot. We bring up his role. He is Mr. Consistent and has been that way his entire career. He's gotten better every single year. Not only in his consistency as a snapper, but also as a blocker and his ability to get down the field and make tackles. He's been awesome. Been a great student as well. Been a great spokesperson. And then typically for me, when you talk about the coin toss captains, I'm trying to kind of take that off some of those guys' plates. So if you can have a specialist do it like him, specifically someone who's not on offense, defense, or the kickoff team, then those guys can be focused and getting ready for that while he's out there, doing it. And then the other thing is, I prefer to have the same guy speaking every week. I know it sounds crazy, but there's been bad mistakes that have been made in the past where somebody defers and then they choose to kick it and the officials try to talk you out of it. No, they deferred. You sure you want to kick it? Yeah, I want to kick it. So just kind of how we go through that each week, what our philosophy is, what we're choosing, why. Just having the same guy do it every single week, I think there's a ton of value in it, and that really wasn't necessarily the plan. It just kind of has evolved like that, and it just makes sense to me to take that off of some other people's plates where they're trying to get ready, they're warming up for offense or warming up for defense or getting some kicks in or whatever it may be. So he's done a great job, and I'm really glad and proud that he chose Penn State a long time ago, came in here and earned a scholarship and did everything the right way. So I think he's got a really bright future. I think he's going to have a chance to continue playing. But I also know he's done all the right things to prepare himself for when football comes to an end. He'll be ready for that too.
Corey Geiger, DK Pittsburgh Sports, then Johnny McGonigal.
Hi, James. I would like to ask you about Sean Clifford and if there's a chance he could remain at Penn State, maybe as an assistant coach at some point. Would you see that maybe in his future?
Cranberry sauce or stuffing?
Stuffing. I eat stovetop stuffing, not that bird stuffing. My wife gets mad at me.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
I can't eat the bird stuff.
Okay. So the question was about Sean staying on as a.
At some point, could he be a coach for you? What would his value be as an assistant coach at some point?
Yeah, I just don't think he has interest in that. I think Sean loves football, but I think Sean is an entrepreneur and Sean is a businessman and has already started those things in the next chapter of his life, and he's prepared for when football comes to an end to kind of do those things full time. He's not one of the guys. There's guys that I know have an interest in coaching. One of the things that's somewhat sad is there's a little bit less of that now. I think a lot of the players see the hours that the coaches work. So some guys want to stay involved with football. I think that's why you hear a lot more of them want to be commentators and things like that because they want to stay involved in the game, but not the hours of coaching. But there's a handful of guys that I do know want to coach one day, and that's never been a conversation with Sean. I could see him maybe doing some quarterback training on the side as maybe one of his, kind of one of his businesses. But I see him more as a businessman and entrepreneur, unless this stirs some conversation with him that I'm not expecting.
Johnny McGonigal, Penn Live, and then we'll come here in the room.
Hey, James, how are you?
dark, first of all, turkey or ham?
See, I'm a ham guy.
Wow.
Yeah, turkey's sometimes just too dry.
If you cook it improperly.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to my family about that.
Now, okay, here's the next question. The ham, with the pineapples on it, like with the glaze, or without the pineapples?
With the pineapples.
Do you include the pineapples in each bite, like a small portion of the pineapple per bite?
I like to mix it up. Whether sometimes it's the pineapple in the bite, or sometimes it's like mashed potatoes in the bite.
See, mashed potatoes goes with turkey, not with ham. The yams or the sweet potato go with the ham. The mashed potato goes with the turkey.
I don't know, I mix it up.
Wow, interesting. I'm learning so much about you guys. Back to your point.
Yeah, so guys like Harrison, Wallace, and Liam, and Omari, these younger receivers who will have to step up over the next couple weeks in Parker's absence, and guys who have played a lot of football for you already this season anyway. But how have you seen them develop, and are you excited for them to be able to have more of a share in the offense?
Yeah, I am excited for them. That's kind of the nature of our game and the nature of our sport. And when an opportunity presents itself, you got to be ready. And to me, it's always kind of an interesting situation because a lot of guys are ready when their number gets called, and some guys aren't. And it's always interesting to see how that plays out. But I've been impressed with those guys and how they've kind of handled the opportunities they've had this season, and some of their roles have grown even without some of the bumps and bruises. But obviously last week and this week and moving forward, that's going to be really important for us. So, between our tight ends stepping up and our running backs stepping up, in the passing game specifically I'm talking about, we're also going to need Keandre and Mitch to take on more responsibility, but we're also going to need those other guys that you just mentioned to take a bigger role as well.
Mark?
Roasted turkey, James, over here, or just conventional or smoked turkey? Which one?
Or deep fried.
I've done them all. Which one do you prefer?
I'm not a big smoked guy, to be honest with you. So probably traditional oven or fried, because fried seems to have be juicier and more, seems to lock the moisture in a little bit.
I'm with you. It's kind of dangerous though, but it's
I don't do it. I'll have somebody come over and do it in the driveway or whatever. We got some friends that do it. Jay Wan's big out on it as well. So, but yeah, that's what you prefer.
Well, if I can live with the danger of it, that with the house possibly burning down, that's
fair.
James, in all seriousness, your senior class, which kind of goes over 2 or 3 different classes, how emotional are you going to be, whether it's the night before, whether it's game day, knowing everything that these guys have gone through over the last few years with the pandemic, a couple of tough years, now kind of bouncing back? It's been really a roller coaster.
Yeah, and it's funny, Tig did his share the other night, and he just talked about, I think his first season was the pandemic, just talked about, how bad it was. Then I remember the next year we were able to kind of get back to our normal routine, and I remember Tig specifically saying, so this is how it is, Yeah, they've kind of been through a bunch, right? And obviously everybody in the country went through this, to a degree. As we all know, different athletic departments in different states handled things differently, but they've seen it all. They really have, and specifically the guys you're talking about have been here 6 years. So yeah, that's a lot of time to spend together. It's somewhat unusual. I've been doing this a long time, but I still struggle with that. The guys moving on, and been fortunate when you're able to stay at the same school for a long time. That helps because the guys come back. I still have people that come and visit, that I coached at Vanderbilt or Maryland or other places, but it's obviously so much more common and easier when you're still at the same school. So that helps. A few weeks ago, AK and Congo, Tangelo, whatever you want to call them, those guys were back. So that really helps. Whether it's a spring game or the whiteout, or guys depending on their bye week or their work schedule, you're able to come back. So that helps. But But senior day is an emotional time for them. It's an emotional time, I know, for the coaching staff. I know it is for me. I'm an emotional guy. And it's not just them, it's their parents. You know, I talk to Karen Scruggs probably like once a week. Like, you know, there's relationships with the parents. I came home last week, and Trace's mom was in town, and Trace's mom is famous for her salsa. So there's 2 things of salsa in the fridge, and I'd never really been able to eat before. It's always gone before I get home. You know, that she had come into town and brought the family her famous salsa. So it's all of it. It's the community, it's the family, it's the relationships. We'll have a ton of families at practice this week because a lot of the families, you know, when we're home, the home games are so much better during Thanksgiving because they can come up for Thanksgiving and then stay for the game, so it makes sense. I got a ton of people coming to my house, not only the players, but their families as well. I was pulling out of the parking lot last night, and the drivers, you know, were behind us. You know, Donald and the whole family. They were parked right behind me. I didn't know who it was at first. So that's a cool thing of this Thanksgiving week combined with the senior day. It's tough when it's on the road. When your last game is on the road and it's the game before, and Thanksgiving is not at home. It makes that a lot more challenging. But yeah, you know, it'll be emotional, but I'll pay respect to those guys. We've got a bunch of guys today taking graduation photos with me in the facility. So a lot of different things going on, but you know, obviously a ton of respect. And I hope, you know, this is always a challenging game because a lot of the students are gone, you know, for break. But I hope the place is sold out, it's rocking, and I hope all of these seniors, you know, get cheered. You know, the way I think they deserve to be cheered, not only, you know, in the senior day ceremonies, but when they announce the starters and things like that. I think that would be the right thing to do, and as a Penn State community, I think the majority of our fans, you know, see it the same way.
John?
Hey James, happy Thanksgiving.
You as well.
I wanted to ask you about one of those 6-year guys, Jonathan Sutherland. When you look at the success he's had on the field, in the classroom, when you look at his experience, how well he's handled himself, just wanted to get your thoughts, or I was going to ask, you know, and how he's been an ambassador. How much does he represent what most people would consider to be a model student athlete? And if you want to answer that, you can. But I really wanted to ask you, how much have you enjoyed coaching Jonathan, spending time around him, getting to know him over the years, and how much will you miss coaching him?
I'm trying to ask you, but I can't think of anything else on the menu that we could ask him.
Cornbread and something?
Cornbread or just like a roll or biscuit.
Cornbread, it doesn't matter what the second one is.
Wow.
Cornbread.
No hesitation, that's good. I was sitting here struggling. I didn't even listen to what you were asking. I'm trying to come up with an either or. Sutherland.
Yes.
Yes, sir, I wrote it down. Thank you. Someone else think of something else for the next one. I'm a huge Sutherland fan. He's another one, in my opinion, that's handled his entire Penn State experience the right way. You know, been a special teams, you know, weapon for multiple years, captain. You know, was a defensive role player, then a defensive starter, has moved positions, and now is a starter at another position. You know, he's a huge routine guy. I mean, literally, he's in the facility taking care of his body all the time. That's when he was still taking a full load, you know, undergrad, that's, you know, in grad school. He's a huge routine guy, which to me, that's going to be part of his legacy. He's done a really good job of teaching a bunch of the young players how to take care of your body, how to prepare, how to maximize your experience here. He's been phenomenal that way. You know, and then you talk about the Canadian, you know, guys. That situation's a little bit different. He's going to have an opportunity to continue playing the game of football, I think in the NFL. But then there's also those guys, you know, they're extremely valuable, you know, obviously to the CFL as well. And those people are going to be fighting for him too, which will create some opportunities for him to continue playing the game as long as he can. And then he's another guy that I have no doubt in my mind, you know, that when football does come to an end, he's going to be prepared. I think that's a big part of our job. as coaches and staff is to make sure that these guys are prepared for when football comes to an end. That is a very difficult transition, and through my career I've seen too many times and too many players and too many programs that those young men were not prepared, and that can be devastating, because I think a lot of these young men, when they come out of high school, their entire identity is wrapped around football, and there's so much more to than that, and to be able to go to a program that is also going to view them and see them as more than just a football player, I think is really important. And again, I don't want this ever to come off where I'm undervaluing the importance of football and those types of things, because I don't mean that at all. But football is going to come to an end for all of them. So having a program, having a plan that reinforces that. So when it does happen, they feel prepared and ready, and in a lot of ways excited for that next chapter of their life. And I think Sud is a really good example of that. I'm a big John Sutherland fan.
Simon?
Before you can ask, if you put it in front of me, I will eat it. There's not much more to it.
So, okay, well that's a good point then. What don't you like? Because I have two things that I don't like. And I'm like you, I'll pretty much eat anything too.
You're not gonna like this, but sweet potato pie.
Wow, have you had it?
I don't like pumpkin pie either though. Yes, I'm not a pie guy in general.
Okay, so that's fair. So, but that's it.
Yeah, I will eat.
Anything else?
Yes. Especially on Thanksgiving.
Liver?
Listen, you cook it right.
Wow. I'll eat liver, I don't like it.
It's a little tough.
Have you ever had chitlins?
Do you know what they are?
Yeah. I'll eat chitlins too, but I don't necessarily like the texture. Good, I'm glad you the follow-up question. Yeah. Will you fill them in later?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll know as soon as it's ends. But to get back to senior day and everything, how do you balance the emotions of it with the fact that you are playing a game right then? Because you talk about 1-0, which part of that is keeping the emotions in check and staying focused, but you kind of want this to be an emotional day, and you kind of want to let everyone feel what they're feeling. So how do you balance that with the fact that you do have to play a game after these ceremonies?
Well, I think the reality is to recognize that, right? It's totally fine and acceptable to recognize there's going to be some emotions that go with it, and what you try to do is you try to channel as much as you can. Okay, you're going to have this time before the game. Appreciate that, experience that, go through the emotions, spend the time with the family, do all those things, and then, let's put that to bed, and then let's focus on the game. And then after the game in the locker room, that's an emotional time. It's the last time that this group's going to be in Beaver Stadium in that locker room together. So to me, I think it's the important thing is to recognize that, to talk about that, so then the guys can come up with a plan for it, rather than Saturday morning they're hit with all these emotions at once. Kind of talk about it and kind of come up with a plan of handling it the right way, so you're not on this emotional high or on this emotional low, that we handle it the right way, and in a lot of ways, learn how to funnel that in a positive way for energy during the game.
Ben?
Ben?
Questions for me? Fresh or canned cranberry sauce? No? Not feeling it?
Yeah, so the answer is obvious, but the fresh cranberry sauce that someone makes, or like the jelly one where you cut it and it just slides out, and it's like in this, and it's in the shape of the can.
Yeah, I know which one Corey's gonna eat, but but yeah, fresh. My mom makes good fresh cranberry sauce. Shout out to my mom.
Is that right?
And she's a lot more local, so you can come right over.
Can I?
Yeah.
He's offered the sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doors open.
Mom,
right over the hill.
Mom's name, shout out.
Yeah, Joanna. That's my mom. Awesome. It's such a hard transition. Maybe that's on purpose, but.
Yeah, trying to get you guys. Look over here. Trying to get you off topic.
I think quarterbacking and coaching share an appreciation emotion that people love you as much as you win, to a certain respect. And you look at Christian sort of gets a pass historically because he showed up when things were weird and he did a lot of things that Penn State needed. Trace won too much for anybody to not like him. And Sean's been through everything. And maybe at the end of the day, you don't get everything done that you wanted to do over that span, but there is a sort of kinship in the half these people love me, half these people hate me, that maybe you can only share with him in a way that your other quarterbacks haven't had to experience. Even if you don't do everything you wanted to do with him, where does that fall on the appreciation and shared experience scale of a thing that maybe not a lot of other people have experienced?
Yeah, shared experience and sometimes shared suffrage. You know, yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's things that as coaches you can relate with your quarterback, and the role and the responsibility and the leadership that comes with that position, and vice versa. There's some times where Sean will come into my office, Trace would come into my office, and ask, hey, I want your perspective on this. You know, you've been there from the beginning with me, all the way back through the recruiting process. And that's probably one of the things, especially now, that I respect so much about Sean is I think he's self-aware. I think he's very self-aware, which I think is a really critical quality for all of us to have. It's the only way you grow, it's the only way you get better, is if you're self-aware. It makes it really hard to coach guys that aren't self-aware. So I think he's got a really good feeling for that. I think he's got a really good appreciation for that. There is a weight that comes with that position. There's a weight that comes with being the head coach. So it's probably the closest kind of correlation, between the players and the staff, and specifically the head coach. I think it's a very good point. I think it's also why, when you talk about our relationship, why it's so strong. You brought up Trace. Why it's so strong. Because you went through shared experiences together, and as we've talked about before, you get a ton of the grief and the frustration, and you feel that, and you sense that, and you see that, and you hear that, and you feel it. And I know as the head coach, probably too much credit when things go well. It's all of that, but I do think your point is a great one. And I don't care whether that's high school, college, or the NFL. There is a strong correlation. There is a strong relationship through those experiences, through those two positions. I think that's very accurate and very fair.
Neil?
Okay, I'll play.
What do you got?
Well, you started with McMonagle, and I think he headed you off at the pass when he said ham. So I'll say dark.
Okay. Thank you. I forgot, because
Yeah.
I was going that route.
Right.
You're exactly
I
right.
picked
So
up on that.
so turkey, the white meat or the dark meat?
Yeah, right.
Dark.
Yeah.
Why?
It's juicier.
I agree.
Uh-huh.
Higher fat content.
That's the first time.
Right.
Yeah, 9 years. I want to hug you right now.
Thanksgiving miracle.
I just
Finally connected.
I just hope they're always winning 55-10 before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But, hey, James, you seem really at peace right now. And this is the first year or one of the first years that your name hasn't come up with other jobs. And is it, are you at more peace? Is it the contract that you signed last year? You talked about the alignment of your administration now. Is it fair to say that you are at a place that, more at peace?
Yeah, I would say though, the one thing you said about my name, that's outside of my control, you guys could be coming in here and asking me some crazy question, right now, but the other stuff, yeah, and I think probably the biggest factor for that, is the alignment, that has been phenomenal, and I think you guys know in the past, I've always been happy with the leadership, but I did feel like we needed more alignment, specifically when it comes to football. And I just think that's been obvious, from the chair to the president. If you spend time around our president, if you haven't, I strongly encourage you to do it. She just has an energy and an enthusiasm and a positivity for Penn State specifically, but for this community and for students and their experience. And it's infectious, it really is. And Pat is aggressive, when it comes to athletics, and I think is fighting, for not just football, for all the sports. He is fighting. So that has been really good. That has been a real positive. So that's probably the biggest thing. That's probably the biggest thing. I feel like I can focus more of my time and energy on our players and our program right now than probably I ever have in 12 years, all the way back to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, two more, Tyler, and then we'll go T. Frank.
James, happy Thanksgiving week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I got something. You've run out of Thanksgiving. So how quickly are the Christmas decorations up in the Franklin household? Because that's a big topic of discussion every November.
That's not the issue. The issue is, when do they come down? My wife
Also
is huge decorator, all of it. But then that's the issue. It's like, when does it come down? Does it just butt right? Do they stay up until the next one? That's always the interesting one. But I can't say anything or critique because I'm not putting them up or taking them down.
I know the rules.
Yeah,
same deal here.
Say that like you get a vote.
Yeah, I don't get a vote. So just smile and say, thanks, honey.
I wanted to take the conversation football-wise to Manny Diaz. He's one of the finalists for the top assistant college football coach. And considering where he's coming from, a lot of guys have options after what he went through. He decided to invest himself as a defensive coordinator. What's your case to make as him being the top assistant coach in college football? And what would it mean to you, the program, and to Manny perhaps, to extend this relationship into another year?
Yeah, I just, like I told you guys, it was kind of unique in how it happened. Because you almost feel uncomfortable reaching out, right? You just were delivered really bad news professionally, and you're calling the guy. Like, it was either the day of or the next day. You're trying to be as respectful as you possibly can, but also, say, hey, this may make sense for both of us. And it went fast. It went fast from saying, yeah, he's interested, and then kind of working through all the details, to coming here and buying Brett Pry's house, and moving in there, to starting to put his stamp on the defense. As you see, as the season's gone on, we've gotten better and better and more confident. His perspective in the staff meetings has been really good. Him reinforcing some things. I think sometimes as assistant coaches, everybody has all the answers for how you should handle things. But Manny, being a head coach before, Terry Smith being a head coach before, Coach Wiz, being a head coach before, you kind of go through the staff. Those experiences are valuable, and I think sometimes being a head coach and then going back to being an assistant, you can be an even better assistant because you view the profession, the game, and the world differently. But he's been great. I think he's really enjoying it. I think he's done a really good job of not just teaching the X's and the O's, but also building a culture on the defensive side of the ball, which is also something I thought Brent did a good job of. Being the head coach of the defense, which is really what I want. I want the position coaches to do that as well by position. All those things obviously must align, with the program's core values and the mission. But he's been great, and I think he's having fun doing it. Sometimes as a head coach, all the reasons why you got into the profession in the first place, the way this profession has changed and evolved, in some ways it pulls you further away from the things that most of us got into the profession in the first place about. And depending on how you construct or build your program, it could pull you even further from that. It's funny, Abdul Carter the other day asked me in practice, he goes, do you call you call any of the plays on offense, defense, especially teams that I told him, I said, at Vanderbilt, it was very different as a first-time head coach, and over the years, how it's kind of evolved. So, I'm proud of him. I'm happy he's here. When I go into the defensive staff room, they got really good morale. They have fun in there. They work hard. Everybody in that room has a voice. I think he's done a really good job, not just with our players, but with the staff as well. So it's been good. Then I'm looking forward to the off season where we kind of have a little bit more time to talk. Okay, now after you've been here a year, what's your thoughts? And then also maybe to dig into kind of what his experience was like. We really haven't had the time to do that. And when you first hire a guy, that's probably not the conversation that he wants to have at the time. So it's been really good. We got a really good staff. I'm thankful for our staff and for our players. I think that kind of goes back to AZ's point. We got a good sense. And I also think it helps. He took over a defense that was in a really healthy spot. Brent had left the place in a really good place and had done a great job. And because I think the players had so much respect for Brent, the hire was important, not just from a scheme standpoint, but from a cultural perspective. And he was able to come in and jump in with 2 feet. And he's got presence, so he's able to get in front of the guys and kind of get them on board very quickly, which also helped. So I hope that answers your question.
T-Frank?
I got one for you. So my mother-in-law is English, and they have a super pared-back Thanksgiving. Like, no casseroles.
Now, did you have carrots? And my mom's English. I think it's where carrots and turnips.
Carrots. I had to switch it over to carrots because I could not eat turnips.
Yeah, we would do. My mom. I haven't done it since my mom passed, but it was always carrots and turnips, which is one of those things. If you grew up eating it, you eat it. But if you didn't grow up eating it, you weren't eating it.
Yeah. So we lost the green bean casserole and all that stuff, which my sister's coming over this week for Thanksgiving, so we're going to see how that goes.
Interesting.
From the offensive perspective, I want to flip over to something you said at the beginning in your opening statement about starting faster. How does that sort of discovery phase in the first quarter, couple drives, whatever it is, where you're trying to figure out what the wrinkle is this week from the defense, whether it's a safety shift or something like that, how long does that take before you can make those in-game adjustments, and how do you work through that time while you're trying to get that and still move the football and still have an effective offense?
The interesting thing is the longer your opening drive is, the better. Obvious, that sounds obvious. But what I mean by that is when you can kind of get through all these different formations and sets and shifts and motions and say, okay, are they playing the way we anticipated them playing based on the game plan, or where are they different, and identify those things as quickly as we possibly can. What's the blitz of the week? What are all those things? That's where that opening drive, not only do you want to be able to do those things, but you also want you want plays that are multi-purpose. You don't really want to be running plays that are specific game plan plays to attack a certain coverage that you're expecting out of a certain formation or field zone. You want to be able to go kind of bread and butter, base plays that are multi-purpose, that have answers versus a variety of things. Because to your point, you don't typically know. And the problem is if you go 3 and out, not only have you gone 3 and out, which is a negative, you haven't really had the time or opportunity to see, are they playing all the formations and field zones the way we expect them to? So it's kind of a double negative. Not only do you go 3 and out, which isn't a positive, but you don't really get to figure out who they are fast enough. Where now if you struggle in your first 2 opening drives, you had to go through 2 struggling opening drives to figure out who they are and how are they playing in this game and what's their approach and mentality. So the opening drive is important. Obviously, when you look at all the data and the analytics about opening with a score, why that's important. But it's also important to be able to determine as quickly as you possibly can, is your opponent this week who you expect them to be based on game planning, and did they have a bye week the week before where they had more time to come up with some unique wrinkles and things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Have a good one.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You as well. And sweet potato pie?
No, that was Frank.
That was Frank.
I'm still trying to figure out what check.
He's the no pie guy.
Yeah, I don't
You're
need
the-
it.
you're the no pie.
Listen, no
So,
pie's the
are
right
you
answer.
gonna bring like a little
Yeah.
Tupperware dish?
I'll see you tomorrow.
Well, I'll be there, Ben. Bring several jars.
We didn't even get into day drinking versus.
You gotta write that note down for next year.